For months, Rachel Reeves and her Labour colleagues have subjected working families across the country to a series of covert tax measures and fiscal pitfalls, all under the guise of promoting fairness and ensuring the wealthy contribute their fair share. They framed it as a moral crusade, an effort to rebalance society. Yet, what they failed to disclose, and what they likely hoped would never come to light, is that they were quietly insulating their own assets from the very tax regimes they imposed on everyone else. That silence has now been shattered. Did you know that over 95% of our viewers aren't subscribed to the channel? We totally get it, life gets busy, and sometimes it's easy to forget. But here's the thing, subscribing is completely free, and it really helps us keep creating the content you enjoy. So, why not hit that subscribe button and join our community? It only takes a second, but it makes a world of difference to us. Thank you for your support. In a dramatic development, the United Kingdom's Supreme Court has intervened in what may prove to be one of the most consequential political scandals of the year. At the heart of the matter lies Labour's contentious inheritance tax policy, a policy which has now turned on its architects. While Rachel Reeves was imposing six-figure tax bills on families with incomes as low as £20,000, it has emerged that some Labour MPs were exploiting offshore loopholes and esoteric trust structures to safeguard their own wealth. These are the same estates they sought to extract from ordinary citizens, assets now frozen by court order as investigations proceed. The ruling from the country's highest court has sent political shockwaves through Westminster, potentially undermining the very moral foundation upon which Keir Starmer's Labour Party has positioned itself. The controversy stems from what Reeves initially described as a minor reform, a discrete provision tucked away in the 2027 budget. Under this policy, pension funds will be treated as part of an individual's estate upon death and taxed accordingly under the 40% inheritance tax if the combined estate exceeds £325,000. While this threshold might appear generous at first glance, the reality for many British families is far more precarious. The average UK property is now valued at £268,000. At a moderate pension pot, say, £228,000, and the threshold is swiftly breached. The result? Bereaved children face tax bills in excess of £170,000. For families with higher earnings or more substantial pensions, this figure climbs to £194,000, £219,000, or even £268,000, all payable directly to the Exchequer. While ordinary Britons struggle to save amid rising costs, the government appears poised to seize significant portions of their legacies. Yet, Labour MPs have reportedly escaped such financial burdens. Leaked documents, supplied by two whistleblowers from within Revenue and Customs, suggest that numerous Labour officials were engaging in complex inheritance planning involving secretive trusts, overseas entities, and legal grey areas. One sitting MP is said to have moved millions into a family preservation trust mere months before the policy announcement. Another allegedly took advantage of a legal anomaly in Irish inheritance law to transfer assets beyond the reach of HMRC. These are the very mechanisms Labour decries as the preserve of the ultra-wealthy, practices the party routinely condemns as antithetical to social justice. And yet, it seems that those at the helm of the party have been quietly employing them all along. Now, thanks to a coalition of tax justice campaigners, legal analysts, and a public increasingly wary of political hypocrisy, the Supreme Court has taken decisive action. Its findings are unequivocal. If a government designs a tax regime that disproportionately penalizes average citizens while enabling its own members to avoid those same liabilities through legal subterfuge, it constitutes not merely an ethical failure, but a potentially criminal breach of trust. The ruling stipulates that any assets shielded by undeclared trusts or offshore arrangements, where linked to serving MPs, may now be seized under the Proceeds of Crime Act, pending full legal investigation. Several estates connected to Labour figures have already been frozen, with further cases currently under review. Rachel Reeves, who had previously styled herself as a principled steward of public finances, is now facing mounting calls for her resignation, and possibly legal charges. Meanwhile, Sir Keir Starmer remains conspicuously silent. Not a single statement has been issued in defence of the families affected by the tax reforms, nor in response to allegations levelled at his own colleagues. According to sources within Labour Party headquarters, Starmer had been briefed on the potential fallout from the pension tax policy as early as February, yet chose to proceed without addressing the legal loopholes being exploited by MPs. While the public was urged to do their bit, it appears the party elite were quietly protecting their own interests. Let us be absolutely clear, this was never about fairness. It was never a genuine attempt to hold the wealthy to account. It was, rather, a calculated move to extract more revenue from the working and middle classes, in order to fund a faltering economic agenda that Labour leaders were unwilling or unable to reform. An agenda that punishes prudence, penalises legacy, and now lies exposed for its glaring hypocrisy. The Supreme Court's ruling is only the beginning of what promises to be a long and turbulent reckoning. Reeves has already signalled her intention to expand the reach of inheritance tax further. An estimated 121,000 more families each year could find their estates subject to heavy taxation, simply to sustain a system that appears rigged in favour of the political class. Meanwhile, other advanced economies, including the United States, France, and Germany, take active steps to protect generational wealth. In Germany, for example, family-owned businesses benefit from exemptions that enable them to thrive. In Britain, by contrast, such legacies are often dismantled to satisfy tax liabilities, with firms sold off and wealth diverted abroad. And we ask ourselves why growth stagnates, why productivity declines, why the next generation faces diminished prospects. The answer lies not in mystery, but in policy shaped by those who demanded austerity from the public, while securing comfort for themselves. This ruling by the Supreme Court may yet prove a turning point. The British public is no longer asleep. We can distinguish between necessary taxation and political opportunism. And come the next general election, Labour may not merely face defeat, but an electoral reckoning fueled by betrayal, outrage, and the demand for genuine accountability. Because in a nation where you cannot pass your home, your pension, or your life's work to your children without government intervention, the question becomes painfully clear: what exactly are we working for? The tables are turning. For months, the British public have watched as political elites sought to tighten their grip on discourse, policing opinions, and punishing dissent. But now, the backlash has begun, and it has arrived in the form of a court ruling that may mark the beginning of the end for Labour's moral authority. Once hailed as a moderate voice in British politics, Sir Keir Starmer now finds himself publicly humiliated, dragged into a courtroom battle he never expected to lose. At the center of this extraordinary episode is Elon Musk, engineer, father to tech mogul Elon Musk, and a forthright critic of Britain's accelerating march towards censorship. In a courtroom charged with tension, the verdict landed like a thunderclap, laying bare the extent of Labour's overreach. What the mainstream press has largely failed to report is how this began. In what appears to have been an unprovoked and ill-advised attack, Sir Keir Starmer took aim at Elon Musk following the latter's candid interview on GB News. During the broadcast, Musk delivered a calm but incisive critique of the United Kingdom's deteriorating commitment to free speech and institutional accountability. He singled out the absurdity of jailing a young woman over a tweet, a stark example, he argued, of a democratic nation losing its moral compass. Rather than address the concerns raised, Starmer's camp responded with vitriol. They accused Musk of peddling misinformation, inciting division, and even insinuated links to online radicalism. The allegations, wholly unfounded, constituted a cynical attempt to discredit a man who had dared to voice uncomfortable truths. But it was a miscalculation of spectacular proportions. When the matter reached the courts, Starmer's legal team attempted to justify their character assassination, only to be met with a scathing rebuke. The judge condemned the team's conduct in no uncertain terms, describing it as a gross misrepresentation of facts and a clear misuse of legal and political institutions to silence dissent. The proceedings, the court ruled, had nothing to do with justice and everything to do with intimidation, a powerful party using state apparatus to crush an individual who had dared to speak his mind. And that individual, Elon Musk, emerged vindicated. The court's decision not only cleared Musk of all allegations but also shed light on the motivations behind Labour's attack. During the now viral GB News interview, Musk had expressed his support for Nigel Farage, a figure once again rattling the political establishment. Musk praised Farage for demonstrating resolve and refusing to capitulate to consensus politics. He remarked that people want strength, and suggested that even his son, Elon Musk, had encouraged Farage to re-enter the political fray. That single endorsement appears to have triggered Labour's ire. Bereft of a counter-argument, Starmer's team instead descended into the realm of character attacks. They found no evidence of wrongdoing, so they attempted to fabricate a narrative, a tactic that has now backfired with astonishing force. Musk's commentary did not stop with Farage. He voiced serious concerns about policing in Britain and the failure of public institutions to protect citizens. He asserted that the public has a right to know about terror threats and criticized law enforcement for withholding information in the name of political correctness. These were not radical views, but candid observations rooted in common sense and democratic principles. And for speaking them aloud, Musk was branded an extremist. It is this Orwellian impulse, to label dissent as dangerous, that has shaken public confidence. Even across the Atlantic, American senators such as J.D. Vance have cited Britain as a cautionary tale of liberal democracy veering into authoritarianism. Under Starmer's leadership, critics say, the UK is no longer upholding the values it claims to represent. The case of Lucy Connolly, a young woman reportedly jailed over a tweet, epitomizes the current crisis. Musk raised her plight during his interview, questioning how a supposedly democratic nation could incarcerate its citizens for expressing opinions. It was a question that resonated with millions. Instead of defending the principle of free speech, Starmer's response was to attempt to destroy the man who dared ask it. This time, however, the smear campaign failed. Starmer has not only lost in court, he has lost face with the public. Confidence in his leadership continues to erode. Voters now see not just the censorship and the bullying, but the collapse of moral credibility in real time. The polished image has cracked, revealing a leader more concerned with control than with truth, more willing to suppress dissent than to engage in debate. Yet amidst this political furore, Elon Musk has emerged with his dignity intact, and arguably, with his reputation enhanced. The courtroom victory, coupled with the wide reach of his GB News interview, has positioned him as a voice of integrity and common sense. He spoke plainly, with gravitas and clarity, about the state of a nation he once admired. And when challenged, he did not retreat. He stood firm, and the system blinked.